Konoha did not wait for sunrise this time. It moved before dawn like a guilty man reaching for a weapon in the dark. Across the village, ANBU masks flashed across rooftops in coordinated silence. Barrier teams took position on the 4 outer seal towers. Hyuga scouts spread their Byakugan web beneath the streets. Nara tacticians moved maps and marker stones across an underground command room while root operatives vanished into the blind angles normal shinobi never noticed. No alarms rang. That was the worst part. This was not panic. It was planning. And at the center of that plan, written in cold ink beneath official mission language, was one truth nobody dared say aloud. Capture Naruto Namike Uzumaki. If resistance exceeds projected levels, suppress by any means necessary. Minato stood over the operation table with both hands braced against the wood hard enough to leave cracks in it. Shikaku's voice remained calm, but only on the surface. We built the pattern around containment, not elimination. Multi-layered suppression. Rotating assault waves. We pressure him, isolate him from allies, force an opening for a SEAL team. Minato's eyes stayed on the map. The old underground routes. The abandoned war tunnels. The breach points they believed led near Naruto's hidden domain. Kushina stood to his left, arms folded tightly enough to hide the tremor in them. And if he doesn't give you an opening? No one answered fast enough. Danzo did. Then we make one. The room chilled. Naruko, who had slipped into the upper observation passage and hidden behind the latticework, felt her stomach twist. She could see them all below through the thin gaps in the wood, the clan heads, the masked ANBU captains, her father, her mother, and the old war vulture in shadow talking about her brother like a storm to be redirected. She had heard whispers. Unstable. Dangerous. Corrupted. But hearing plans? Hearing adults reduce blood to strategy? That broke something in her. He's still my son, Kushina said, voice low and dangerous. Danzo didn't even look at her. That is precisely why you are not fit to judge the threat. Minato's head lifted. The room changed with that movement. Not with volume. With intent. There were very few people in Konoha who could make veteran shinobi regret speaking without ever raising their voice. Minato was one of them. Watch your next sentence, he said. Danzo's visible eye narrowed, but he said nothing more. Shikaku stepped in before the room ignited. We are out of time. The longer we wait, the deeper he roots himself. We need to contain this before it becomes a village fracture. Village fracture. Interesting phrase. As if the fracture had not already happened years ago in a quiet house with one son loved loudly and another loved lazily. Naruko's fingers curled into the wood railing until her knuckles went white. Below, Minato exhaled once. Operation begins at first light, he said. No lethal force unless I give the order. Danzo's cane tapped the floor. Understood, he said. He lied so easily it sounded practiced. Naruko didn't wait to hear anything else. She was gone before the meeting ended, vaulting across rooftops with her heart hammering hard enough to hurt. The cold wind bit her face, but it couldn't cut through the guilt already burning in her ribs. For the first time in her life, she was not running to keep up with Naruto. She was running because Konoha had decided to move against him, and for once, she would not arrive too late. Deep beneath the village, Naruto felt the shift before the first unit ever moved. The white bone walls of his underground stronghold thrummed once, like a heartbeat answering an approaching blade. Veins of black-red spiritual matter pulsed through the ceiling. Lamps dimmed and steadied. The throne at the end of the chamber seemed to grow taller in the low light, as if the base itself were straightening its spine. Naruto opened his eyes. He had been seated in silence, one hand resting against the throne arm, while spiritual readouts scrolled through his mind in cold silver text. Report. Konoha tactical mobilization confirmed. Estimated forces, 143 active signatures. Barrier fluctuation indicates containment operation. Root elements embedded. No surprise. No anger. Just confirmation. Across the chamber, Haku looked up from the spread intelligence sheets first. They're moving. Hinata had already felt it. Her Byakugan flickered with strain as she stared through layers of earth and stone above them. They blocked 3 of the northern exits. Hyuga on the east tunnels. ANBU below the market route. She swallowed. They brought SEAL teams. Naruto rose from the throne in one smooth motion. The pressure in the chamber changed instantly, not heavier, just sharper. Focused. Good. They were done whispering in meeting rooms. Now they were choosing action. I expected this, Naruto said. Haku's pale eyes narrowed. And? Naruto stepped toward the central seal table. Konoha's map rose in crimson light beneath his fingers. He touched one tunnel, then another, then 3 more in quick succession. We don't retreat randomly, he said. We break the shape of the assault. Hinata moved to his side. You want to split them. I want them to stop thinking like hunters. His finger tapped the largest underground junction beneath the old southern wall. If they commit fully down here, they fight on my ground. If they push us up, they enter a wider field where they'll rely on numbers. A faint, cold smile touched his mouth. That's when they learn numbers only matter if you can stand. The system voice pulsed. Optimization complete. Combat branch unlocked, Dominion field. Recommended use against large organized forces. Naruto's eyes flickered once. Interesting. Haku noticed the shift. New ability? Yes. Useful? Naruto looked at the map, then toward the ceiling, where he could feel Konoha descending toward him with layers of caution and fear. Yes, he said softly. For teaching. Above them, the first seal charge detonated. Not with fire. With silence. A shockwave of suppressive formulae hit the outer corridors, spreading in black lines across the stone. Hidden entrances collapsed inward. Dust blasted through passageways. One of Naruto's decoy tunnels crumpled completely, burying 3 empty rooms and a false archive beneath tons of rock. So, they had done their homework. Naruto didn't flinch. Phase 1, he said. Haku vanished. Hinata did the same a half-breath later. The underground war began. ANBU units flooded the lower approach corridors with practiced precision, moving in disciplined wedges, hands already flicking through signs for light seals and capture restraints. Their orders were simple: corner, isolate, pin, and hold until the primary SEAL squad arrived. Instead, the first team never reached the third junction. Mist rolled low across the floor. One ANBU paused. Water vapor? Underground? That was all he had time to say. Sunbon flashed through the dark like silver rain. 3 men dropped at once, limbs numbed before their brains registered impact. The squad leader turned, blade already half-drawn, and found Haku standing on the corridor wall sideways, expression empty, mirrors of ice beginning to bloom from the damp stone around him. You're supposed to be dead, the leader hissed. Haku's voice was almost gentle. I was. Then the mirrors shattered outward. Not defensively. Offensively. Ice exploded through the corridor with razor speed, forcing ANBU into a desperate retreat as Haku moved between reflections faster than ordinary sight could track. Limbs went numb. Masks cracked. Seal scrolls fell from unresponsive fingers. Above and east, the Hyuga advance squad hit their own problem. Hinata. They expected hesitation. They expected pleading eyes and uncertain hands. They found neither. She stepped from the side passage in a plain black cloak, Byakugan blazing, posture straight as a drawn blade. For half a second, one of the branch family shinobi froze in disbelief. Lady Hinata. She crossed the distance before he finished speaking. Gentle fist collided with his tenketsu pattern so cleanly it looked surgical. He spun, collapsed, and skidded into the wall. The second Hyuga came from behind. Hinata ducked, rotated, and struck upward with a palm so precise it shut down his dominant arm completely. No wasted motion. No apology. No shrinking. A third Hyuga landed in front of her and stared. "Stand down," he ordered. "You're disgracing the clan." Hinata's expression didn't change. "No," she said. "I'm finally embarrassing the part of it that deserves it." Then she struck hard enough to crater the stone under his feet. By the time Konoha's forward teams realized they weren't cornering frightened runaways but attacking a system already built to punish intrusion, it was too late. Naruto moved. Sonito cracked through the underground network like thunder trapped in bone. He crossed 6 corridors in less than a breath, appearing behind the first SEAL squad just as they began placing suppression anchors into the floor. One ANBU sensed him and turned. Much too slow. Naruto's hand closed over the seal rod before it hit stone. Arrow met reinforced steel. The metal screamed. Then bent. The squad scattered instantly, disciplined enough to know proximity meant death. Naruto lifted the twisted rod, looked at the formulae etched down its length, and smiled faintly. "You really did prepare." The captain formed signs. Containment formation. Blue chains of chakra burst from 4 corners of the junction. Naruto stood in the center and let them reach him. Haku, hidden above, tensed. Hinata, 2 tunnels away, felt the spike and changed direction immediately. The chains hit Naruto's shoulders, wrists, waist. And shattered. Not from brute force. From pressure. Invisible Ryatsu slammed outward from Naruto's body in a precise ring. The chains disintegrated into chakra sparks. 2 SEAL operatives were blown off their feet. The captain tried to recover and found his knees hitting the floor before he understood why. Naruto stepped into the center of them. "Report," the system whispered. "Dominion field, active." The corridor became heavy. Not metaphorically. Actually heavy. Every shinobi inside it felt gravity turn hostile. Muscles slowed. Breathing thickened. Vision blurred at the edges. This was not killing intent. It was worse. It was authority. Naruto walked past the kneeling squad, each footfall deliberate, each motion calm, as if the world itself had agreed to lower its voice when he entered. "Tell them this," he said without turning. "If Konoha wants to drag me back into a cage, it should send stronger hands." Then he flicked one finger. The corridor wall detonated outward. Sunlight slashed in. The battle spilled above ground. The southern outskirts of Konoha erupted in noise. Stone and dirt exploded skyward as Naruto's forces, small in number, monstrous in effect, burst from beneath the earth and into open air. ANBU landed across broken rooftops. Barrier tags lit the training fields. Civilians screamed from distant streets as emergency sirens finally began to ring. For the first time since the 4th Great War drills had been designed, Konoha's internal defense formation turned against a target born inside the village. Naruto landed in the center of the ruined southern field with black dust curling around his boots. Around him, Haku stood on the remains of a shattered wall, cloak tearing in the wind. Hinata emerged from the smoke opposite him, breathing hard, one sleeve bloodied, but eyes steady. Then the full force of Konoha arrived. Jonin. Ambu. SEAL Masters. Clan Specialists. A widening circle of steel and chakra around the boy they once ignored in classrooms and streets. Kakashi dropped onto a cracked post near the front line, visible eye unreadable. Might Guy landed beside him, grinning in that impossible way he wore even before disaster. "This is becoming youthful in exactly the wrong direction," Guy muttered. Kakashi didn't look away from Naruto. "Don't underestimate him." Guy's grin softened by 1 degree. "I wasn't planning to." Across the line, Hayashi Hyuga stepped forward and saw Hinata beside Naruto. For one rare moment, the polished patriarch mask failed him. "Hinata." She met his gaze without flinching. No daughterly collapse. No fear. Just distance. That seemed to wound him more than defiance ever could have. Naruto looked over the assembled force. Then, almost lazily, he asked, "This many?" His voice carried. Cold. Unhurried. A murmur moved through the ranks. Because arrogance is one thing. Calm contempt from the surrounded is another. Kakashi stepped out half a pace. Naruto. Naruto's eyes shifted to him. "Tell them to leave," Kakashi said. "Before this gets worse." Naruto glanced around at the seal towers igniting in the distance, at the hidden root signatures threading through the rear lines, at the Hyuga formation already narrowing its blind spot net, at the chakra suppression screens rising over the district. "It's already worse," he said. Then Konoha attacked. The first wave came textbook clean. Earth walls rose to limit movement. Wire nets flashed across blind angles. Fire release forced Haku higher. Hyuga rushed Hinata. ANBU pressured Naruto from 3 directions at once while SEAL teams drove anchor rods into the ground around him in a tightening hexagon. Slow motion. Dust rising. Steel glinting. 100 calculations colliding at once. Naruto inhaled. Then vanished. Sonito split the field apart. He appeared inside the hexagon before the final seal could finish. One palm hit the ground. Ryatsu Dominion surged outward in a red-black pulse that flattened grass, cracked seal rods, and drove the entire first assault wave backward like leaves in a storm. ANBU slammed into broken walls. Earth constructs shattered. 2 jonin coughed blood just from trying to stand against it. Guy moved first through the pressure. Of course he did. He came in low, speed blooming into monstrous force, green chakra roaring around him as he drove a kick toward Naruto's ribs. Naruto blocked. The impact boomed across the field. Stone beneath both of them cratered. Guy's eyes widened just slightly. He arrow. Naruto's forearm had taken the kick and held. A white sheen gleamed under his skin like buried armor. Interesting. Guy grinned despite himself. That is a very troublesome body. Naruto's answer was immediate. His free hand snapped upward, 2 fingers extended, crimson-black energy condensing at their tip with a high, lethal whine. Zero Fong. Guy's instincts screamed. He twisted sideways just as the beam carved past his shoulder and annihilated half a training tower in the distance. The explosion rolled across the district in thunder. Konoha's ranks hesitated. Just one beat. Long enough? Naruto drove a knee into Guy's midsection and launched the jonin through 3 broken walls. Kakashi was there before the debris settled. Lightning flashed. Raikiri screamed toward Naruto's flank. Naruto turned at the last instant, but not fully. The blade hit. White sparks and red-black pressure exploded outward as Kakashi's Raikiri pierced Hiero, not cleanly, but enough to draw blood. The field went dead silent for half a second. Naruto looked down at the wound. Then at Kakashi. There was no anger on his face. Only a kind of distant acknowledgement. So, Naruto said softly, "You can still cut me." Kakashi's grip tightened. "I didn't come here to kill you. Neither did most prisons." Naruto caught Kakashi's wrist. The pressure wave from that simple movement cracked the ground in a ring 10 meters wide. Then Naruto headbutted him hard enough to send the copy ninja skidding backward through dirt and splintered wood. Blood ran warm from Naruto's side. He touched it once with 2 fingers. The wound began knitting closed immediately. Across the field, fear deepened. The system voice whispered inside him. Regeneration responding. Combat stress accelerating adaptation. New threshold approaching. Hinata's fight turned brutal on the eastern edge. Hayashi himself had entered now, and his gentle fist was a far crueler thing than the branch shinobi around him. He moved with beautiful violence, every palm meant to cripple rather than merely stop. Hinata met him head-on anyway. Palm met palm. Chakra burst. Stone split beneath their feet. Hayashi struck for her heart pathway. Hinata rotated, diverted, and drove 2 clean hits into his shoulder line before he adapted and forced her back. They separated. breathing hard. Father and daughter facing each other across broken ground in years of expectation. You chose him over your clan, Hayashi said. Hinata's Byakugan burned white. No, she said. I chose the first person who saw me clearly. That landed hard. Because Hayashi knew it was true. He attacked again. This time with anger. Haku intercepted the follow-up from above, ice needles screaming through the air and forcing Hayashi backward. The battlefield widened. Loyalties became visible. No one could pretend this was containment anymore. This was fracture. Then Naruto arrived. She landed between the second and third seal rings in a burst of breath and motion, chains flickering wild and unstable behind her. Dirt skidded under her sandals as she took in the scene, the smoke, the ruined field, injured Jonin, her brother bleeding and healing in the same breath, Hinata fighting her own father, Haku freezing Anbu in the air like insects in amber. It was too big. Too late. Still, she stepped forward. Naruto. He turned. Just enough. Blue eyes met blue eyes across wreckage and pressure and all the years between them. For the first time since this began, something in Naruto's face shifted away from warfare. Naruto saw it. And because she saw it, Danzo moved. Root had been waiting for that opening. Black-clad operatives burst from the rear perimeter and slammed 4 specialized seal pylons into the earth around Naruto before anyone could react. The rods exploded with Uzumaki script light, crimson chains of formulae racing from one to the next and converging directly through her body. Naruto screamed. Not because she was pierced. Because the seal used her bloodline as a key. Kushina, arriving with the reserve team a split second too late, went white with horror. No! The formation ignited fully. A massive suppression dome roared upward over the battlefield, black, red, and gold, locking Naruto at the center while Naruto became the living anchor point at its heart. Formulae crawled up her arms, across her neck, into the chain marks on her back, devouring chakra as fuel. Danzo stepped from shadow at the edge of the field, utterly calm. Bind the specimen. The word hung in the air like filth. Minato's head snapped toward him. You used Naruto? Danzo didn't blink. Shared blood improves capture stability. We had one chance. Naruto stopped moving. Completely. The battlefield felt it. All the motion, all the noise, and at the center of it, the stillness of something about to decide whether mercy still existed. Naruto was on one knee, shaking violently as the seal drank from her. And Naruto. Kushina rushed the barrier and was thrown back by the counterforce. Haku's ice exploded against it and shattered uselessly. Hinata struck the dome with a perfect palm and only managed to crack one outer layer before recoil ripped blood from her lips. Minato vanished. Flying Thunder God flashed across the field. He appeared beside Danzo with a kunai at the old man's throat so fast the air split. Drop it. Danzo's expression did not change. If you kill me now, the formation destabilizes and drains the girl dry. Perhaps both children die. Make your choice, Hokage. There it was. The blade beneath the entire operation. Not capture. Leverage. Minato looked past Danzo to Naruto convulsing inside the seal and Naruto standing beyond her under the darkening dome, blood and pressure beginning to coil around him like an approaching eclipse. The system voice whispered through Naruto's skull. Emotional cascade detected. Critical threshold approaching. Mask evolution probability, extreme. He barely heard it. Because flashbacks were hitting him too fast. Naruto offering him her extra slice of cake. Naruto laughing while their parents celebrated her. Naruto crying in the council chamber. Naruto saying, I know. Late. Always late. And yet. She had come. When it mattered, she had run toward him. Naruto lifted his eyes slowly. The partial white mask spread farther across his face. One horn extended. Black-red pressure bled upward from his body in pillars. The suppression dome trembled. All across the field, Konoha's shinobi felt terror hit at a level deeper than instinct. This was no longer the neglected son, the strange prodigy, the unstable threat. This was the breaking point. Kakashi pushed himself upright through the pressure and stared. Guy, bruised and grinning less now, did the same. Hayashi felt genuine uncertainty. Kushina felt maternal fear so violent it became nausea. And Minato. Minato realized with sick clarity that if Naruto fully broke here, Konoha would survive only as a memory burned into a crater. Naruto raised one hand. Energy gathered above his palm. Not a sirophone. Not the smaller, focused beam. This was denser. Wider. Deeper. A sphere of red-black annihilation forming with the sound of reality grinding its teeth. The system named it. Gran Race Zero prototype available. Even Mahalo, appearing at Naruto's shoulder like a delighted ghost, laughed softly. There it is. Naruto looked up through tears and burning seal script. Please, don't. Naruto's jaw tightened. His hand trembled once. That was how everyone knew he was still fighting himself. Kushina screamed his name. Hinata tried to reach the dome again and got thrown back. Haku formed ice mirrors in desperation, searching for a weak point. Danzo began the second stage hand sign. Minato saw it. Saw the kill mechanism hidden beneath the seal. If the dome failed, it would collapse inward, ripping both Naruto and Naruko apart in a containment implosion. Danzo had planned for every ending except mercy. The desperate choice came then. Not theoretical. Immediate. Brutal. Hokage or father. Village doctrine or his children. Contain the threat and lose his son for good, maybe both children. Or break the operation, destroy Konoha's own suppression grid, and shatter the political spine of his authority in front of the entire village. Minato moved. Not toward Naruto. Toward the barrier towers. Flying Thunder God flared 4 times in impossible succession, South Tower, East Tower, West Tower, Central Relay faster than most eyes could follow. Every marked seal core received a direct counter formula from Minato's hand, his own chakra threading into the village grid like a knife inserted into its nervous system. Shikaku saw it first from the command ridge. He's reversing the array. Danzo spun, visible eye widening for the first time. What are you doing? Minato's voice rang across the battlefield. Choosing my children. Then he slammed the final formula into the central suppression channel. Konoha's containment net shattered. The barrier dome above Naruto fractured into 1,000 burning cracks. Naruko collapsed as the seal released her. And Danzo, enraged, triggered the implosion manually. Bad decision. The collapsing seal folded inward exactly as designed, but now the force had no stable containment path. It became a spiraling mass of wild suppression energy rushing straight toward Naruko's fallen body. Naruto saw it. So did Minato. Both moved. Only one arrived first. Flying Thunder God flashed. Minato appeared between Naruko and the implosion just as Naruto's Gran Race Zero destabilized in his hand. For one impossible second, father and son stood opposite each other in the center of the collapsing battlefield, Minato shielding Naruko with his body, Naruto holding a star of destruction in his palm, both of them framed by a shattered village force and the consequences of everything that had been ignored. Minato looked up. Not as Hokage. Not as legend. As a father who knew apology had expired. Naruto, he said, voice rough, urgent, real, if you still hate me, do it after she lives. The words hit harder than any jutsu. Because they were not righteous. Not commanding. Not manipulative. Just true. Naruto's eyes widened by a fraction. The Gran Race Zero screamed in his hand as the implosion rushed inward. The hollow snarled. Decide. System text flashed violently. Immediate action required. Redirect, release, or consume. Naruto made his choice. He closed his hand around the unstable Zero and drove it downward into the earth beneath himself. The world ruptured. Red-black light tore through the battlefield and plunged into the underground tunnel network below, punching a vertical abyss into Konoha's southern foundation. The implosion met the descending blast, collided, folded, and detonated beneath the surface instead of above it. The southern district buckled. Shockwaves rolled outward like an earthquake. Buildings cracked. Roads split. The Hokage monument lost a second chunk from its stone jaw. But the village did not die. Naruto did not die. Minato did not die. Barely. The recoil threw Naruto backward through 3 broken walls and half a forest line. Minato skidded across the ruined field with Naruto locked under one arm. Danzo was slammed off his feet by the backwash hard enough to break ribs. Hundreds of shinobi hit the ground. Silence followed. Not clean silence. The ringing kind. The kind after something huge survives by an inch. Smoke covered the field in rolling gray sheets. Shapes moved inside it. Kakashi pushed himself up first, coughing dust. Guy followed, battered and grinning in pure disbelief. Kushina staggered to Naruto and collapsed beside her, hands shaking over her daughter's face. Hayashi stared at Hinata standing protectively between him and Naruto's side of the field and said nothing. Then Minato stood. Slowly. He was bleeding from the shoulder and mouth, cloak shredded, eyes darker than anyone in Konoha had ever seen them. Across the ruined field, Naruto rose from the crater he had carved into the forest edge. The white mask covered nearly half his face now. Blood ran down one side of his neck. His breathing was heavier. But he was standing. Of course he was. The two of them looked at each other through dust and ruin and the remains of Konoha's first honest attempt to break him. No one else mattered for that moment. Not ANBU. Not clans. Not Danzo. Just father and son with the battlefield of their failures laid open between them. Minato took one step forward. Then another. He stopped well short of attack range. I won't let them do that again, he said. Danzo barked from the rubble, you've compromised the village. Minato didn't even turn. No, he said. I just stopped it from becoming you. That sentence changed things. Not subtly. Permanently. Because every jonin, every clan head, every shinobi still standing had seen the truth now. Danzo had used Naruto. The operation had carried a kill switch. The Hokage had broken his own village's capture plan to save both children. Nothing could be neatly buried after this. Naruto looked at Minato for a long moment. There were 1,000 things in that silence. Years of being unseen. The ache of almost believing too late. The rage of a child turned into a force. The tiny, dangerous wound opened by hearing one true sentence from the man who should have said 100 sooner. Finally Naruto spoke. You chose correctly, he said. Minato's breath caught. Small sentence. Massive weight. Then Naruto's eyes cooled again. But you chose at the edge. That one hurt exactly where it should. Minato accepted it without defense. Yes. Kushina looked up from Naruto, tears and dirt on her face. Naruto, please. He turned toward her. And in that glance, she saw it fully for the first time. Not hatred. Not even revenge. Distance. The kind distance gets when it has hardened into architecture. He was no longer standing outside the family home hoping to be called in. He had built a throne elsewhere. Hinata moved to his side first. Haku joined her a breath later. 3 figures against a shattered field of Konoha's finest. Naruto looked around once, taking in the injured, the broken seal towers, the split earth, the public wound carved across his home village. This was the first major confrontation. And nobody had one. That was the real horror of it. Konoha had failed to reclaim him. Naruto had failed to leave untouched. The village would bleed politically for this. Families would talk. Sides would form. Trust would fracture. The reckoning was over. The breaking point had begun. "If you come for me again like this," Naruto said quietly, and somehow that made everyone lean in harder, "I won't dig the blast downward." A shiver passed through the field. He wasn't boasting. He was promising scale. Then a black tear opened in the air behind him. Garganta. Wind screamed around its edges. Haku disappeared into it first. Hinata paused only long enough to look once at her father, then stepped backward into darkness without a word. Naruto remained for one final second. Minato took half a step forward. Naruto. Naruto looked at him. The mask began to recede in fragments. "I believe you meant it," he said. "That's what makes this worse." Then he turned and vanished into the black. The tear in space closed. And Konoha was left staring at the scarred earth where a son had stood against an army and survived. Naruto woke at dusk. Weak. Burned. Alive. Kushina was beside her instantly. Minato stood at the far side of the room, quieter than a ghost. Naruto looked from one to the other, then toward the cracked window where she could see medics running below and half the village lit by emergency lanterns. "He left," she whispered. No one lied to her. "Yes," Minato said. Naruto swallowed hard. "Because of us." Kushina broke at that, head lowering to the bedsheet. Minato closed his eyes. "Because yes. Because not only because of them, but undeniably through them." Outside the hospital, the rumors had evolved into factions already. Some called Naruto a traitor. Some called him a victim. Some called him a monster the village had created. And in the deepest shadows of Konoha, Danzo sat in the dark with broken ribs and colder eyes than before, planning the next move with the patience of a man who had just lost the first round and decided that meant the war had finally become interesting. Far beyond the walls, in the white-bone depths of the expanding throne room, Naruto stood alone before the central map while the system voice pulsed through the silence. Report. Major confrontation complete. Konoha military evaluation updated, insufficient. Minato Namake's status, unstable variable. Emotional interference detected. Naruto said nothing. He looked at the map. Then at his own hand. Then at the faint memory of Minato's voice saying, "If you still hate me, do it after she lives." The hollow appeared on the throne behind him, grin smaller now, more thoughtful. "Well," he asked. "Does that change anything?" Naruto's answer came after a long time. "No." Another pause. Then, colder. "But it complicates everything." The system pulsed once more. New alerts detected. 3 points lit on the map beyond Fire Country. A snake in the dark. A red cloud shifting toward the border. And one ancient eye opening wider than before. Naruto stared at the new lights. Konoha had reached its breaking point. Now the world was starting to lean in. And somewhere in the village he had just spared, Minato Namake sat alone in the Hokage office staring at the broken seal reports and the blood on his sleeve, knowing he had made the only choice he could live with. And possibly the one Konoha would never forgive. The night deepened. The village held its breath. And in the darkness between father and son, war finally began.